Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Come with me if you want to live.
Why so serious?
Shall we begin?
You're listening to the Adventures in Nerding podcast on adventuresinnerding.com.
Welcome to the Adventures in Nerding podcast on adventuresinnerding.com. I'm your host, Cory, and of course, you heard myself announcing myself because I am too broke to actually afford a full-time voice guy. Fancy, isn't it? I am here with Ryan Snelling. You might know him as the host of the After Schmo, the podcast on the Schmoes Know Network, as well as his Sight and Sound podcast. Ryan, you also do a bunch of other things that are too confusing for my medial little mind to understand. Can you explain those?
Yeah, for some reason, I've been lucky enough to where all of my shows sort of interact with each other on different networks. Like, it's all in this weird, disconnected family, if you will. So I was explaining to you before the show that we do these like TV recap podcasts for this great app called TV Showtime. It's actually a really successful app. It's got over 1 million downloads, at least on Google Play. I don't know if you can check that out on Apple Store or whatever you call it. But anyway, the TV Showtime app allows Jay, my co-host, and I to do TV recaps. So where it gets confusing is that we've done separate shows for them, and we've also done shows for them on Sight and Sound. And so we're kind of like picking and choosing where we want to put the show, depending on how popular we think it's going to be. But you were right in just saying that After Schmo and Sight and Sound were the two main things. You're absolutely right about that.
All right, so podcasting, is that your main gig?
No, it is not. I have a full-time job, and podcasting is a hustle and grind for me.
Hustle and grind. You're like a drug dealer in words.
Yes, thank you. That makes me sound a lot cooler than I actually am. I appreciate it.
How did you get involved in all this, in talking for money?
Well, with podcasting, it was always something that intrigued me because I've always been a fan of just the arts in general. Like, I've always gone through phases where I've been into music and I've been into filmmaking. I used to act, and podcasting, I was just going to eventually get to podcasting, right? A friend of mine named Phil, we came up with this idea because we were talking about movies anyway, and we just figured it would be kind of cool to podcast about them. And this was probably the spring of 2014, I guess. And how we got around to actually doing it, putting pencil to paper, is I was actually on leave from my main job due to some issues that I was having, and I needed something to do. And I just picked up a mic and we started doing what we talked about doing. And that ended up being the fall. So it was several months after we came up with the idea. But that's when Phil and I started Film Beef. And ever since then, it's pretty much all I've done in my spare time. So 2.5 years.
So you got to Schmoes eventually. How did you meet all those people? That had to be an interesting story.
Well, as far as coming across them, not actually physically meeting anybody yet, but it's coming across them because Film Beef was getting bigger, and well, at least bigger for us. I found this little movie pocket, this movie corner on YouTube, and it kind of blew me away. And I was watching people like Chris Stuckman, like the Flick Pick, and saying to myself, I want that for myself. And so I was just constantly browsing YouTube, and that's when I came across the Schmoes and Collider, and I got involved with the Facebook group and started watching all of their content daily, and it absolutely ruined me for reading movie blogs. Like, I don't remember, since watching their shows, I don't recall having read a movie blog article again. Because I never needed to. But I just got obsessed with what all of these people were doing online. And as far as meeting them, as far as meeting Mark Ellis, who was my first liaison into Schmoes Know, I just sent him an email. I told him that I had a podcast, and he was doing stand-up in Nashville at the time, which is 3 hours away from where I live. And I just asked him, hey, if I came down to your show, would you guest on my podcast? And he was very gracious and said yes. And I went and met him. and then it's probably a month after that when I first got the Schmoville podcast gig.
That's pretty awesome, man. And you've been doing such a great job. I know you had a brief retirement, but
Yeah,
once you're out, they pull you back in.
that's right. Yeah. I appreciate that, by the way. It's been a lot of fun and a dream come true, obviously.
Well, it's an interesting journey into talking. Well, it's not necessarily for money, but just for a bit of adulation every once in a while. And for me, man, I started interning 10 years ago. I ended up on a station. In entertainment, it's fun. You haven't made it until you've gotten canceled a couple times, and that's what's happened to me.
Right.
I work in the background right now. I used to produce this huge donkey show. Now, it sounds funny.
What is that?
It's we were a Howard Stern clone. People did a bunch of crazy stuff. Strippers. Let's see here. We gave away a trip to the Bunny Ranch a few times. Some 6'5", 500-pound dude got laid for the first time. He got a freaking 3-way with two hot chicks at the Bunny Ranch. Yeah.
Sounds like something I'd love to be a part of.
Yeah, and when that goes away, and then you start doing normal things, man, work seems weird when you're doing.
Say life gets boring after that.
Life gets boring,
so
and then
early.
and once all that happened, I found AMC Movie Talk and John Campia and Christian and Mark, and then I started following that, and then I got into the Ultimate Schmodown, which Trial JTE, which is hilarious. Which I invite people to actually watch. Go back and watch the old episodes because those are interesting and extremely funny. So I emailed Mark Riley, and I started writing for them. So it's been about 2 years.
Oh, right, because you do .com stuff. That's right.
.com, one of the senior editors with Rachel and Chris and Jen and Resiska and. I'm forgetting some people who will probably yell at me, but it's okay. So with all the podcasting you have going on, everything you do, I do know that you nerd over a few things.
Oh, yeah.
Very true. Music. I know you podcast over, you've got that Sight and Sound pod over music. Who's an artist right now that stands out for you?
What's actually funny, I don't actually nerd out about music anymore.
Oh my God.
So it's funny that you say that because the thing that we have going right now on Sight and Sound is that Jay is sort of the music guru, and I bring movies to the table. I did, like I said before, I did play in a band, and I was once really involved with music, but music eventually it broke my heart, and I couldn't. I was no longer. I just haven't been a fan of it in the same way that I used to be.
Were you a drummer?
No, I was the vocalist, actually, lead vocalist.
Oh.
So yeah. But anyway, as far as artists that really stand out to me right now, I just got really excited listening to the new Logic album, which is it's a really great hip hop album. Jay told me his sell was that it was the Childish Gambino album that I wanted last year, which Childish Gambino is one of my favorite rappers, but he also sort of bridges that gap into TV and movies. If whoever's listening to this, I pray to God you know who Childish Gambino is, or Donald Glover. But
yeah, Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, he was going to be Spider-Man. It should have been Spider-Man. But anyway, he's going to be in Han Solo, and he's killing it on Atlanta for FX. But anyway, so Logic is the latest hip-hop album that I've really enjoyed. And my favorite rock band right now is a band called Balance and Composure.
Oh, I've not heard of them.
They're really good. They're sort of like a groovy grunge type thing. They're like a mellow rock. I would say that they're sort of like a modern Nirvana. Like if they could play at the same time, they would be in each other's company without a doubt. But I just saw them a couple weeks ago in Nashville. Actually, they're really great and really hitting the spot for me right now.
All right, so let's get into what we were going to talk about.
Okay.
A fun topic. a thing I feel like you hold near and dear to your heart. I believe it's Seinfeld, but I gotta find the right button, so this is obviously going to be edited out. Geez.
I want you.
How about I, there we go. There you go, Cory. Good job. Good job. This for live. You'd be a total fucking idiot.
Shall we begin?
Yeah, how about that?
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Come with me if you want to live.
You're gonna see some serious shit.
This in the profession is what we call take 3. Who knows if I edit this out of the damn thing? All I know is that was freaking hilarious. What did I do? Exactly. I turned Ryan completely down.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That's why Ryan can't hear me. And then I decided to play the wrong bed like 5 times because I'm deaf and I'm old. So, Ryan.
Can I say something about those sounds, though, real quick?
Yeah, what's up?
I don't know what you're going to edit out or whatever, but it's the intro sound.
Yeah.
I'm ecstatic that you include Benedict Cumberbatch's Khan. I just tweeted out the other day how I'm still baffled why people hate that movie so much.
He's so good in it. And
Not only is he, I just don't see any real reason why. I think that movie is great. You can argue whether it's better than the first one, I think. I don't think it is. I still think the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie is the best. But it's a worthy sequel, and it was a hell of a great time. I think people just remember the mystery involved behind the scenes, and maybe they were annoyed by the J.J. Abrams, hiding the fact that he was actually Khan the whole time. I feel like people bring that into it for no reason.
It's a great twist, but people are a bit confused and I guess a bit obsessed with the originals, especially Star Trek fans, even more than Star Wars fans. Star Trek fans get so technical with things. The split universe, why are you redoing, Khan? Khan was perfectly fine. Why'd you flip it? Why'd you flip it and have one die instead of the other? And yeah, people get so sweaty and angry.
I get that because I have to be. I know I'm guilty of it at some point. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I know I'm guilty of being passionate about something and being angry when someone comes in and makes a change. But I try not to be. And someone that we follow, talking about Collider and Schmoes, someone that we follow named Robert Meyer Burnett, he's a huge Star Trek fan. And because he loves the original series and all of that stuff so much, it brings him to hating the J.J. Abrams movie. And it's like, that's an incredible good movie. And if hating it, or if liking the original series means that you hate that movie, then I'm totally fine with not caring of the original series, because it's a damn good movie.
Well, you can love the things you love so much, but eventually in Hollywood, if it has any kind of following, it's going to get remade. You at least should back the fact that they're putting money behind it. They're getting good actors for it. They're not doing some kind of B thing where you watch it on FXX or whatever the channel is. They're doing justice to it and bringing JJ in. Come on, what he's done with Star Trek, what he's done with Star Wars, and what he did before that with, what was it, Lost and all that. He's done such a great...
Well, Mission Impossible was the original franchise that he reinvigorated. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's done such a great job with things, and people still go after him, especially for Star Wars. Like, why did you remake? What was it? It wasn't Empire. It was
A New Hope.
A New Hope. Like, he had to reintroduce people into it. He had to gloss over the prequels and use practical effects in situations that probably using CGI would be a whole hell of a lot cheaper and better.
And one can also argue that a reasonable fan of cinema can argue that Force Awakens is a better version than A New Hope. So,
yeah, better actors, blah blah blah, less people on drugs. Now let's get into Seinfeld because that's why we're here. That's why we're here. Totally why we're here. What got you into Seinfeld? Because you're young.
I was -1.
You were -1. So what did -1 Ryan? When did you actually see your first episode?
I don't remember how old I was exactly, but I was still very young. I think it was, I don't remember if I was watching it when it was on the air, but I was watching it on VHS anyway. Like, how I remember it, it was a show that my dad loves. And growing up, I remember him taping the show, and he would just watch it around me. And it was one of those things where you grow up and hear what your dad thinks is funny, and you start to pay attention. And I guess it's some weird psychological thing where you want to find out what makes your dad happy or what makes your dad funny. And I was picking up on that, but at the same time, I think I was just kind of learning what my sense of humor was in general because I was so young and impressionable. And given the fact that, not only was this guy an actor on a TV show, but you could watch him do stand up, and I could learn that aspect of it too. Not to mention that Kramer is just a sight for anyone to see. And I think, honestly, Kramer was like, I guess a weird way of putting it is like a kid is going to laugh at everything Kramer does, but they're not always going to pick up on those social commentaries that Jerry and Elaine and George are making. So I guess maybe Kramer was my way in, and through him, I learned what my sense of humor would end up being in my adult life.
Yeah, Kramer was kind of that vaudeville slapstick, old-fashioned type of humor that people love.
Right, and to this day, it's just an incredible show, and I've been addicted to it ever since I first laid my eyes on it a couple of decades ago. And it's one of those shows, I don't know for you, but the reruns never get old. And you can just watch it like it's still coming on to this day. I mean, it's never gone away for me. So I hold it, like you said, I hold it very near and dear to my heart.
Now, not exactly Seinfeld do I watch that much, but Star Trek, watching Star Wars movies, anything Justice League, Marvel. I am a ADD animal, so there isn't really one thing I hold myself to. If I watch it, I watch it. I usually watch 2 episodes and then I move on to something else because I'm an animal. But when it comes to Seinfeld, Jerry is a very rich man who's into very expensive cars, and I will never have the amount of money he has. Him and Jay Leno are just you study their lives and you're like, wow, just wow. Those guys.
I don't think there's so few people on Earth that can say they'll have as much money as he has. I mean, between him and Larry David, I think they might be like 2 of the most powerful people in Hollywood money-wise.
Yeah, and they don't dress like it or act like it at all.
They really don't. Not at all. Sometimes, I mean, honestly, they don't hate the fact that they can buy whatever they want. Jerry doesn't hate the fact that he can fill an airplane hangar with cars, but I still think they hate being famous. I think they're like 2 advocates, especially Jerry. I think they're 2 people that that don't like the fandom, and they don't like if you watch Seinfeld and you pick up on Jerry's personality traits, you can come up with the idea that Jerry hates interacting with fans. And he hates that whole act, and there's no way that guy enjoys being a celebrity.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he always picks up on the irony of everyday life.
Right. Which is crazy because us as fans, we want to connect and we want our celebrities to appreciate us and love us. So it's hilarious that one of my favorite people on the planet could not give a shit that I love his show, but I love it anyway.
A lot of people get mad when a celebrity or a baseball player, they're standing somewhere and they run into them and they shove like a stuffed toy into their face and expect them to sign it. And when they say no, they're like, oh man, Jerry Seinfeld's a dick. He didn't sign my, plush bee toy from the Bee movie.
Right.
Not every star wants to have fans. Some people get into acting or get into comedy. They love the adulation, obviously. They love the money. They love performing. But you know what? A lot of people just love performing.
People just don't realize, there are so many aspects of being a celebrity that have to suck, and some of them are too nice to talk about it. We talked off air about watching comedians in cars getting coffee. If you watch that show, there's a lot of fan interactions that happen to pop up as him and whoever else, Jimmy Fallon, are driving around, walking down the street, and fans will talk to him. And more often than not, Jerry makes fun of them. and is trying to get away from them. And you can tell, and he doesn't care. He's the one that edits that show. He doesn't care to keep it in. He's not the biggest fan of that, and that's fascinating to me because I love how raw and real that is.
Now, comparing yourself to Jerry Seinfeld, like, I know you never would, but like, how are you around people? Have you been in situations where you meet someone who's a fan of Schmoes, who's a fan of your podcast? Like, how do you interact?
I do have a lot of Jerryisms, and that's why I connect with, again, that social commentary that the show brings about, the things that Larry David is all about as well on Curb Your Enthusiasm, because I think if you have to be a fan of one of those shows, you're a fan of the other. But I do have a lot of Jerryisms, and there are times, but I'm very open about this. There are times when I kind of get annoyed about talking about podcasting with people that it's just because so few people actually know what podcasting is, at least the people that I'm around physically. So anytime I'm at a social gathering with like my family, for example, I cringe when they bring up podcasting because not only do they not know what it is, but I know that if they ask me about it, they're not going to understand my answer anyway. Like I could explain, like at the top of the show when you asked me about like Sight and Sound and how After Schmo works, you might be able to pick up on it because you follow it, but it's going to go in one ear and out the other when it's someone in my family. So I hate when people bring it up. I would prefer people don't even talk to me about it at all in that type of situation.
Well, digital media is hard, and it's changing. It's forever changing when you think about it. You start with cable companies. They're not going away, but they're diversifying. So, cable's main revenue stream, and this is getting very nerdy and sweaty for people, so you might want to fast forward. Their main revenue stream is becoming just internet because people are cord cutting. Part of cord cutting is so many different avenues being available for people to digest content. YouTube, Hulu, even Crackle, even though they're losing Jerry, Netflix. PlayStation has their own satellite-based thing. There's so many ways to digest content, including podcasts, and it's getting spread. Everything's getting spread over such a wide variance of areas, and that's why I understand it. Everything's a competitor. Everybody is getting into podcasting. Radio is getting into podcasting. You'll hear a show on XM or land radio, and it'll be up the next minute. I drive, an hour a day down to Eugene or Albany or whatever to do IT or news stuff. And, I want to listen to a show. I don't want to listen to commercials. I listen to enough commercials during my job. So listening to someone like you or Christian and Mark on the Schmoes Know Show or some news or sports podcast, I need someone to, you need a friend. You need to drive with a friend. And why not have someone that's actually funny? Kind of like you, you're a funny guy.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Now getting back
to Mark and Christian more so, of course.
Well, Mark's pretty funny. Christian's Christian's funny too. Christian's funny too. Jesus Christ, Luke Skywalker, motherfucker, is just fucking standing out in my mind forever. Now, let's talk about a particular character, Kramer and Michael Richards, because I feel like he's gotten such a bad rap for, certain thing he did that we don't have to repeat because, we like having jobs. Do you feel bad for him?
I think it happened when I was sort of, I don't want to say I was too young to understand it, but I guess I didn't have my social and my political beliefs weren't really solidified yet. So I just remember thinking, not knowing what to think, but I also saw that apology on Letterman because I'm also a huge Letterman fan. I think I saw the apology on Letterman before I saw the actual video of him doing that. So I think I was already sympathizing with him before I was angry.
Yeah.
And
have
that's
you ever
just
seen
sort
a
of how
video
it
of it?
unfolded.
Or I guess
Yeah, I've seen videos of it. But so It's hard for me to say. I mean, that's sort of how it unfolded for me. So my experience was probably radically different than so many other people's, and I understand anyone that was upset by it. But just the way it happened, I think by default, it's not, especially after so much time has passed, not affecting me.
He's gotten so much grief. He's worked.
I know.
He's worked his way out. You know, he made a split-second decision to react to hecklers in a way he probably thought at the moment would be funny, but it didn't come across that way.
Sure. Yeah.
And a lot of comedians have gotten in trouble for things, for the split-second decisions, like, who used to be the Affleck guy?
Gilbert Gottfried.
Gilbert, yep. He got fired from doing that for a tweet I think he sent out.
Tweeting jokes about the tsunami in Japan.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
And
I thought you were talking about Renazizi or whatever from the league who tweeted or who faked being present during 9/11 attacks.
Oh, shit.
Did you not know about that?
I did not know about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's the main guy on the league. He plays Kevin on the league. He's actually a friend of the Schmoes. He was on an early episode of Schmoes. But at the time, he talked about this on Mark Maron. When he moved to L.A., it was like right after 9/11. And he talked about how people would ask him about being in New York at the time. And I think he said that he was actually like a couple blocks away because it was near where his girlfriend worked or whatever. But because people were so... I wouldn't say excited, but they were so intrigued to talk to him because he was, they were so intrigued to talk to him because he was there and he just came from New York that over time it just became this conversation that he was actually there, and it was sort of like a game of telephone, and he never had the guts and the integrity to sort of correct it because it gave him, like, people in the comedy realm were calling him like the comedian from 9/11 or something like that.
Oh, like Brian Williams or something.
He was actually becoming known for it, so he never took the time to actually correct it, and then it didn't come out until like last year or something.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Now, Julie Louis-Dreyfus. She is...
Oh, yeah, we're talking about Seinfeld. I forgot.
Hey, man, it's all good. I'm ADD as well. When you come to people other than Mr. Seinfeld who have been successful, she is definitely the most successful person.
100%.
Yeah, with Veep.
Well, not even that. She had that successful sitcom, New Adventures of Old Christine, which ran for like, I think it was like at least 6 seasons, right? I mean, it was a while.
Yeah, she has just had such a great run where other people have kind of fallen out. Jason Alexander, I believe, he's more of a Broadway guy, isn't he now?
I think so, yeah. He just recently took over for Larry David in his own play, so.
Wayne Knight, don't see anywhere, to be quite honest.
He still does stuff. Again, he was just on a sitcom. He was like one of the starring roles in that TV Land sitcom I was referencing. But
now, is there an episode that stands out to you of Seinfeld that,
man,
if you're sad, if you've had a terrible, crappy day at work, you come home, what episode do you put on?
Oh God. A lot of them come to mind because they're all so good. There are so few Seinfeld episodes where I watch it and I'm like, I don't care about this. There might be like 1 or 2. I love The Little Jerry. I love The Serenity Now. Those are 2 of my favorites. Let's see, what else? I love The Marine Biologist. Just the more absurd ones just crack me up. I laughed like for a week. The first time I saw the episode where Kramer has an intern, I remember thinking that was just the most absurd thing that an everyday human would have an intern. And I remember just loving that idea. God, so many pop out. But I think the Serenity Now and The Little Jerry are probably 2 of my favorites. Also the Calzone.
What was it? Was it Festivus?
Festivus is good, yeah.
That's the one that stands out in my mind, probably because it became such a trend that people were just mentioning it in everyday life. And that happens with these shows, I feel like. You know, once they're big, what was it? Oh, jeez. Bazinga. So,
Oh Lord.
yeah.
Please don't compare Bazinga and Big Bang Theory to Seinfeld. Big Bang Theory has the one thing, I'll give it that, but there are stacks on stacks of Seinfeld references in pop culture. I mean, talk about the soup Nazi, the yada yada. I mean, that list goes on forever, and Big Bang Theory only has Bazinga.
Oh, good God. I kind of find the show funny, I guess because I'm such a nerd. I just started watching Silicon Valley, which is just hilarious. I just love T.J. Miller.
He's great.
Oh, yeah, he's fucking funny. He was my favorite part of What's-Her-Face's Roundtable show that used to be on E! I'm really great at names, by the way, can't you tell?
I was going to say, you're killing it, man.
You're like, What's-His-Face with the hair? The guy with the thing on the square box. Oh, man. I am a fool. So Seinfeld, let's go back to that because that's it. That's excellent. Now, I had a run of, just about 10 years, which is pretty good when you think about it. Sears, Seinfeld, Roseanne, those shows kind of, we're in the same era. Cosby Show.
Yeah, I was going to say Cosby Show and Cheers were two big competitors back in the day.
Oh, man, Cosby Show. Can you imagine somebody working on that? You're like, man, those residual checks, they're helping me through retirement.
I was going to say, in an alternate universe, me and you would actually be talking about The Cosby Show right now.
Oh, dear God, yeah.
Yeah, I was one of those. I was very affected by all of that coming out. One of my childhood heroes is actually a monster, and I don't know how I can appreciate one of my favorite shows ever
Beyond a monster, he's still out there. I mean, he's going blind. I mean, fate is definitely kicking in, and ironically, he's going completely blind, and he's trying to defend himself by going after these rape victims. Like 40 people are just going to make up that Bill Cosby drugged and raped them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, the people you look up to can never be perfect, can they? Except for Jerry. I don't think anything's going to come out ever about Jerry Seinfeld that he's some like mass rapist murderer.
Well, no, there is the thing about him though when he was dating a teenager or whatever.
Uh-oh. What? Tell me
didn't
more.
know about that?
No, come on. Tell me some interesting things.
I don't know the extent of it, but like in his heyday during the run of the show, he like went out on a couple dates with this girl who was like 17 or something, and it was like this huge controversy that eventually I think just went away because he either just quit talking to her or summed it up to him not knowing that she was actually that age. So it just kind of went away. But
he had secrets. Well, they all have secrets. Derek Jeter would hand out those baskets of like memorabilia and stuff to the girls he slept with. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
But I would like a Derek Jeter memorial. Thanks for sleeping with me.
Yeah, I'd happily take one of those.
Other than Seinfeld, were there any other shows besides, the Cosby Show that stood out in your head as something that influenced you to where you are now?
I think Letterman, if we're talking about in the realm of comedy, Letterman is sort of in that same realm. If we're talking about it, well, I guess actually my background with Letterman and The Late Show is very similar to my background with Seinfeld, I guess. It was a show that my dad watched and it informed my sense of humor. So yeah, I mean, that was huge for me as well. So it was one of the worst times of my life when he was leaving the air, which would have been like 2 years ago, this month. But yeah, dark times.
Oh, he as a kid, he's had a tough career when you think about it.
Why?
Well, he's had success, a lot of success, but he was I think the preferred choice of Carson to take over.
I mean, he was never favored in the ratings next to Leno or whatever, but by no means was he a failure. I mean, he did it for like 23 years.
No, he's not a failure at all. I just mean he had to take the lumps of not being chosen for the great job, and
right.
I think there's a time in America where people like to feel safe, and they wanted their comedians to feel safe, so they rejected him at something he should have hosted, looking at
Right.
the late night wars, even though him and Jay were best friends. And yeah, they didn't. I don't know if they are now. I don't know if they've talked since.
No, I don't think so. I'm sure they talk, but I don't think they really. I don't think David really cares about him much anymore. But I mean, I think ultimately it was to his benefit because Letterman was able to do more of the weird stuff in this corner over here on CBS. So I actually think it worked out for the better.
He took chances. He took chances. He spoke his mind, and it worked out for him because he was able to be his own type of comedian. And people that are in that Tonight Show spot, Conan, who totally got screwed as well. Weird how that network just constantly screws people over. And, Jimmy is getting crap. He was getting crap for not giving Trump enough guff when he was on the show. Like, glad.
Softball was the word. But
Yeah.
I think that's his take anyway. Like, it's sort of what you expect. Jimmy plays softball with everyone. Jimmy Fallon is very talented at what he does, and I like Jimmy Fallon, but his show isn't challenging when you compare it to something like Colbert, and that's why Colbert is doing better right now, actually, which is fascinating to me. But
Colbert is great for post 9/11 people, as in he takes chances. He talks about things that people want to talk about. And Jimmy, is from that Leno type mold of, let's not go there. Let's not piss people off. I've got sponsors to worry about. Let's do this funny gag.
Jimmy just kind of glad hands everybody. He's very folksy and very friendly with the guests and everything, but that's sort of the extent of it. He doesn't play hardball. He plays games with his guests. And, but I mean, in a way, that's a good thing too, because that means that when it comes to late night, there is definitely something for everyone, depending on the type of person you are. So,
and you bring that around back to Seinfeld. Seinfeld took chances. I mean, at first they were just this traditional, show.
Seinfeld.
But yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
Tell me about it. You're the expert here.
Well, I was gonna say Seinfeld in the first couple of years faced cancellation, and it's crazy to me that not only did it eventually become one of the greatest, if not the greatest sitcom of all time, but it also influenced so many shows that are out now. I mean, there's a couple shows spring to mind that can be described as like Seinfeld on crack. You could say that about Curb, but if you wanted to go even more outside the box and get away from the Larry David stuff, is a show like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or I mean, that's a Seinfeld on crack, but even like a show like Arrested Development, the way Arrested Development keeps those inside jokes like close to the vest and can stretch inside jokes out for a season at a time, the way that the episodes are structured and how every character has its own storyline and they all come together in an absurd way at the very end. I mean, that structure is something that Seinfeld started and made popular. And now all of these shows are built that way. And it's all due to him.
That brand of comedy has touched so many people. You can even look at Family Guy and say there are parts of it, that go towards Jerry's point of view in terms of comedy, not the cleanliness. Dear God, no.
Right.
But he's really affected everything in TV, much like Roseanne. And even though Bill Cosby did what he did, family comedies, he shaped that structure of how they go.
Definitely.
But TV is changing. Everything's changing, and that brings us to podcasts and how you do yours and the comedy you bring towards it. I mean, how much does Jerry influence your brand of comedy, the way you present yourself?
It's hard for me to answer that, only because if I answer it in a way, in a certain way, it makes me sound like I think I'm as funny as Jerry. But I know that I'm not. I'm not able to craft.
You're not even as good looking as Jerry.
Yeah,
I've seen your pictures. Both of us.
Yeah.
We could be twins. Very ugly twins. Both of us in the back of a bar somewhere. If we went and got into the getting numbers contest, we'd get one. And that would be from each other at the end of the night.
I would be cast as George before Jerry. That's for sure. But yeah, it's a weird thing for me to answer because I'll never be as funny as him. But as far as sort of my attitude. Again, it's all about the attitude. My attitude, my social commentary, and the way I present myself and react to things. That it's not done intentionally, but it ended up being just sort of a perfect storm, and that's what informed my personality. So I think my attitude towards things is how I represent Jerry Seinfeld in my own work. So,
it's strange how people get introduced to each other, because I didn't know you from Adam, and then you showed up, and they saw these posts, and Schmoes Know After Show, After Schmo, and you've always been approachable. You've always been nice. Even when people aren't being nice. Even when people are being complete dicks. Which the internet, you know what? The internet is a fucking hellhole of assholes sometimes.
Yeah.
People can be so cruel, and there you are, standing there. You don't get angry.
Well, I wouldn't say that. You're being too kind. I think that, I mean, since we've kind of talked about it with Jerry, I mean, there are two sides to me, but, and I want, and it's funny because I give Jay a hard time with this. I talk about how Jay, my co-host, always appears a lot nicer than he actually is. But I mean, I think I have that responsibility too, because I look at some of the shit that's on the internet and I don't want any part of it. And honestly, the internet, if anything, makes me consider being a better person. And I think that's really, that's a flaw of mine, but I think it's also just really human. And seeing the shit that I see on the internet makes me think twice about the things that I say and the things that I post. I'm very opinionated. And I feel like I'm very raw, but at the same time, I try to, and I'm learning this as we go, I try to remember that all of my interactions are with actual people, and that I owe them a chance, I guess, and I owe them something more than what they might get elsewhere, if it's a trolling comment section or whatever. I hope that I come across that way, but I can't feel good about just letting you say all of that, because
No, it's all good.
It's hard. I mean, but I think it's just part of being human. You just try to be the best that you can be, and I guess that's all I can say.
So what other projects do you have out there? Is there anything that we don't know of that people should be aware of?
No, I mean, like I said, Sight and Sound is the main hustle, and I think it's really cool that Christian sort of let After Schmo become an extension of that, because that's what it feels like. It's just me and Jay doing our thing for them, and they just let us go. I mean, ever since Jay and I have been doing After Schmo, I haven't received a single note, and it's nuts. They're just letting us go with it, and I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, Sight and Sound is really just the home base, man. And if I had to plug anything, it would just be the Sight and Sound YouTube channel, which is where we put up literally everything. I mean, not only do we put up our podcast there, even the stuff that we do for the TV Showtime app shows up. That's our home base. And but also our podcast feed as well. If you want to listen to the audio versions of things in the car or what have you, that's there for you as well. But yeah, just Sight and Sound.
All right, and where can people find you online?
Those places, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell.
What up, Snell?
That's right.
Of course, you can find me on adventuresandnerding.com. Oh, jeez, my voice. I'm going to take a drink of water, stupid phlegm. Fuck you, phlegm. This is why you record live, because there's comedy moments that come up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in real life.
I'm so over editing. I think it's way better to just go with it, even if you fuck up.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
It's like you said before. It's about feeling like what you're listening to is like an extension of your friends group. Like you want to feel friendly with the podcast that you listen to. So I think those moments are good for that.
Yeah, as long as you're prepared for it.
Right.
If you're Bill O'Reilly and you don't understand what play us out into a video is, and you get really mad, then you have a video that haunts you for 20 years And every single top 40 radio show uses the Do It Live Fuck It.
Well, as of right now, that video is actually the least of his problems. So.
Yeah, he's got a podcast now. People are going to be charged like $40 a month to listen to this Get Fucking Angry podcast.
Right.
Man, only if I could do that. I want to get people angry for money. But, you know, I'm here with Ryan Snelling. We're closing this out. We're doing it live. Fuck it. We're doing it live. It's fun talking to you. It's a lot of fun talking with you.
I appreciate that. You too.
I am really fucking annoying. I am a negative, angry little man. I'm 6 foot tall and 200 pounds, but still, I'm negative and angry, and I'm balding, and I'm angry about that. I hate it.
That means you're a lot more interesting, and you're the right kind of person to host a show like this, if that's the case. And
hopefully, coming up, I am talking to Mark Ellis. I have Emma Fife, possibly Christian, a few other people. I'm reaching out to some folks I met at some cons. So there are a lot of guests coming up that'll talk about things they're nerding about. But right now, I've got to bid you adieu. Is it there?
It was a good time, man. I appreciate it.
Go to adventuresindnerding.com and watch previous episodes.
You like this show?
No, it's the worst show ever.